Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Big Picture Manatee. It's almost November 5th, and at the Big Picture Manatee today, we want to talk a lot about the general election. We're going to mention federal, state, but we're going to focus on local issues primarily, and that's what you'll expect from us today. So we hope that you've either early voted, you're mail-in voting, but if not getting this, you're going to know what to do on elect day, who to look for. Oh, I'm Sherry Corrier, former Manatee County Administrator.
Thank you, Sherry. And I'm Misty Servia, former County Commissioner, and I'm here today in my DeSoto County office, not in the Big Picture Manatee studio. So hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Reggie Bellamy, and former county commissioner. Coming up on Veterans Day, proud veteran of the United States Army. Welcome, everyone. Excited to talk about getting out to vote.
Wow. And I'm going to say real quick, since you said that, Reggie, thank you for your service. But Misty, also thank you to your sons for their service currently. And we will be talking about their commitment and your commitment and others in future episodes. So as you, everybody, Big Picture, we're here to educate, engage, and inform you about local issues that impact you here in Manatee County. So this is an important issue that we're going to talk about, the elections. You know, we have a presidential election. We're not going to focus too much on that, but there has been so much information. Surely everybody by now knows there are two party candidates, and then there are several others vying for that position. So Misty, why don't you get started, help our viewers learn about the commission races, and then Reggie will help out too.
Yeah, sure. So let's start with the Manatee County Commission, District 1. So we have three candidates that you're going to see on the ballot. We have Republican Carol Ann Feltz. We have no party affiliate, Jennifer Lynn Hamey, and Democrat Glenn Pearson. So a very good variety in that race.
Yeah, District 1 is going to be very, very interesting. The District 3 race, you have Republican Tal Sadiq and the Democrat Deanna Shoemaker.
Yeah, and so with Districts 1 and District 3, that rounds out our local. When we have District 5, you have Dr. Robert McCann, and then also you have a district at large, District 7, which is at large Republican candidate George Cruz.
Now, Sherry, don't we have another candidate in District 5, Dee Bartello?
A nonpartisan candidate?
Yeah.
He didn't show up on here, so thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not pronouncing his name correctly.
Well, we apologize, sir. We acknowledge you, but we may not have the right pronunciation, but we do want to give him his acknowledgement and thank you for being
absolutely.
Yeah, so supervisor of elections too, don't forget about that. I mean, in the primary, there was a lot of work done to elect Republican Scott Farrington as the Republican running in that race. And really his name is the only one that will be on the ballot, but there is going to be a blank line for a write-in should anyone wish to do so.
Yeah, write-ins are always encouraging. And we have the Manatee County School Board, nonpartisan for all voters. All voters will have races on their ballot, regardless of the party registration. So the Manatee County School Board, District 1, Heather Felton, I think she's a former teacher, and Mark Stanek. And then Manatee County School Board, District 3, Charlie Kennedy. And I think Charlie Kennedy is going against John Finch, if I'm not, if I'm saying that the right way.
John Lynch. Yeah, John Lynch.
Yeah, John Lynch. And then we have the city of Bradenton race, and Mary Jean Brown, and obviously Mr. Bill Sanders going against him. And Ward 5, two great individuals. I know both of them personally, Iris Thomas Garcia and Pam Coachman.
thanks to both of you for running down those local candidates in the offices. Again, a lot of publicity you've seen on those. For those that we filled in the blank, thanks for catching some of those. We also wanted to spend a lot of time today on the different amendments, so we're going to get to those. But first, as you all know, as we said at the show, there's a federal race for president. There are candidates for that. We're not going to focus primarily on that. We're going to let you all make those decisions and look up that information on your own. But we do have U.S. Senator Rick Scott running as a Republican. Bonan, who's a Libertarian. You have a Democrat candidate, Debbie Marcel Powell, NPAs, Tom Nugent and Ben Everidge. Those are for U.S. Senator. Then in the United States Represented District 16 of Congress, you have running for those two is Vern Buchanan as the Republican and Dan Schneider as the Democrat. Also, State Representative District 70, you have Republican Michael Owen and Democrat Luther Wilkins. Then we go to State Representative District 71, also one Republican, Will Robinson, and a Democrat candidate, Adrienne DeVillers. Then State Representative District 72, and that has also a Democrat running, Lisa Miller, and a Republican, Bill Connerly. Well, those are your state offices. We have some state and local referendums on the ballot, and there are quite a few of them. And we wanted to save a lot of time for these because these are important for people to understand what they are. So there are 6 state constitutional amendments that are going to be on your ballot. 2 of the state amendments were proposed by citizens initiatives, while the state is bringing forward 4. So there's an amending the constitutional via referendum requires 60% of the vote. So you got to have 60% on these. So I'm going to start off with amendment number 1. And it's proposed by the Florida legislature entitled Partisan Election of Members of District School Boards. It would require members of school boards in Florida to be elected in a partisan rather than nonpartisan election, and it would begin in 2026 if it passed. So just remember, you're making the decision whether you want school boards to be partisan, Republican, Democrat, nonpartisan, or write-in, or whether you want it to be continue to be nonpartisan. That is your amendment 1. Reggie, Misty, any thoughts on amendment 1?
No, I think you described it very well. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so then I'm going to go on with amendment 2. This is a Florida legislature proposed with bipartisan support, meaning both sides of the aisle helped to bring this forward. It's a right to fish and hunt, and it would provide a constitutional right for to fish and hunt, including traditional methods. So, you know, this is something, if you agree upon this, disagree, this is Florida saying that Floridians need a broader access to be able to hunt and fish, and want to make sure that they're able to do that. A lot of the people that are in favor of this will say that it's either a local or important issue, one or the other. And so I'm going to leave that open for everyone to kind of on their own, especially since it's related to a lot of personal perspectives on amendment number 2. I'm going to pass it off. Reggie, would you like to talk about amendment 3?
Yes, I definitely would. And amendment 3, which was proposed by a citizen initiative, that's very, very important, and is entitled for adult personal use of marijuana. It will legalize recreational marijuana throughout Florida for adults, allowing adults to possess up to 3 ounces of flower and up to 5 grams of in the concentrated form. Now, I really don't understand all that, but I'm just telling you how the breakdown is based on the way that it's written. Existing in medical marijuana facilities will automatically be authorized to become recreational distributors. Now, there's a lot of advertisement going on about that. as far as, big bank taking little bank. And we won't get into that. We're just going to give you the information. The medical marijuana passed with 71% of the vote in 2016. However, the drug remains illegal federally. Possession of more than 20 grams is still a felony, while under 20 grams is a misdemeanor. Although the Biden administration has instructed the Department of Health and Human Services to begin taking steps toward reclassifying it from a Schedule 1 narcotic to a Schedule 3 narcotic. Now, where I come in at, as far as how it impacts, obviously not just me, but people of color, and what has taken place with arrests as far as minority use or African American use. And coming from the National Survey of Drug and Health, it states in 2020 that 38.8% of marijuana possession arrests came from Blacks. And however, Blacks only represent 13.6% of the U.S. population. And some more data that I have out there that I came across as far as a survey from the ACLU shows that due to racial profiling and bias in marijuana enforcement, this is why some people are for it. I'm not going to go in, my position one or the other, but, you want to look at marijuana enforcement a little bit different. The data basically shows that Blacks are 3.6 more times likely than whites to be arrested for marijuana possession. So that's a little different. We want to look at that, and we want to make sure that our law enforcement has other things to focus on as far as fighting crime. Here's what's interesting more. 24 states, and including the District of Columbia, have legalized possession of marijuana for adults. It is estimated that legalizing recreational marijuana would raise between 200 and 400 million in annual sales tax and revenues for the state. Now, all of us want to shake our heads on that. What can we do with that revenue? We need some roads, we need some bridges, some other things. I'll leave that alone. Right? Does anyone have any comments on Amendment 3?
I'm not going there with you.
Yeah, that money sounds amazing.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. On to Amendment 4, and obviously this is a little closer to home to the females. And I had a certain position that I put on this when I was a county commissioner. But let's get into it. Amendment 4 was proposed by another citizens initiative to limit government interference with abortion. It would provide a constitutional right to abortion before fetal viability, estimated to be around 24 weeks, depending on case by case, or when necessary to protect the patient's health and determined by the patient's health care provider. A yes vote on Amendment 4 supports adding the following language to the Florida Constitution Declaration of Rights. Let's look at what the yes vote will support. No law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion before viability or when necessary to protect the patient's health. I think that is very, very important. We have learned of some of the national cases where people have had some unfortunate transitions because they needed this health care and it was not provided because of some laws. And we want to make sure we look at that from a different focus lens. Amendment 4 would maintain a current provision approved by voters in 2004 that allows for a law requiring parents to be notified before a minor can receive an abortion. That's important. Earlier this year, the Florida Supreme Court ruled that the Constitution's right to privacy does not include the right to abortion. Of course, you all know how I feel about that. This decision was overturned in 1989, ruling which found that the privacy clause did include the right of abortion. Now, the ruling allowed states 2022 15-week abortion ban to take effect. In 2023, the legislature went a step further, passing the Heartbeat Protection Act to ban abortion at 6 weeks, which was contingent on the state Supreme Court overturning its prior ruling. A no vote on Amendment 4 would preserve the 6-week ban that took effect on May 1st before 2022. Abortions were legal in Florida until 24 weeks. Any comments on that information?
That's going to be a big one. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how Florida feels about that amendment. 60% is needed to pass, right?
Yeah, right. And I've probably studied this one more than just about any others, like on both sides, to see what the word, to me, it's always about the wording. Like, what's the wording really mean, and what's the wording intent? So thanks for going over that, Reggie, because I think that's helpful for people to hear like what the wording really is and then make their own judgments.
Yeah, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about Amendment 5. Now, the wording, just like you said, Sherry, isn't that key? Because I don't know, I don't think that we're doing the best job of making it really clear and really neutral in these titles. So Amendment 5 was another one proposed by the Florida legislature, excuse me. It's entitled Annual Adjustments to the Value of Certain Homestead Exemptions. So it would require an annual inflation adjustment to the value of current or future homestead exemptions that apply solely to levies other than the school district levies, and for which every person who has legal or equitable title to real estate and maintains that on a permanent residence by the owner or other person legally or naturally dependent on the owner would be eligible. Now, if this passes, it's going to take effect right away, January 1st, 2025. And I think that I could be wrong, but I believe all of the state constitutional amendments that reduce taxes through homestead exemption by increasing homestead exemption have passed, because I think a lot of people think, why wouldn't I want lower taxes? But there is no free lunch. So you squeeze it out of one person or one area and it just goes to another area. We still need the money, right? But that's for the public to decide. So if it passes, this would increase the size of the exemption this year and each year thereafter, in which the consumer price index increases. So in other words, there would be the $25,000 base exemption plus the rise in CPI every year, and that money would be lost to local government services. Now, if you have Save Our Homes, that's already capping your homestead tax increases to no more than 3% per year, or the CPI, whichever is less, representing an existing loss to local governments. So state economists are predicting that the amendment will reduce local government tax collections by $22.8 million during the 2025-2026 fiscal year. And that number is going to grow to almost $112 million during the 2028-2029 fiscal year, assuming existing tax rates. So again, no free lunch. I don't know where the money's going to come from. Amendment 6, let's talk about this a little bit. It was also proposed by the legislature. It's entitled People of Public Campaign Financing Requirement. What it would do is repeal the requirement for public financing for campaigns of candidates for elective statewide office who agree to campaign spending limits. So if you remember back in 1998, Florida voters passed an amendment providing for public funding for candidates for state office by 64%. Now in 2011, there was an effort to repeal public financing, and that failed. So public financing in Florida is available for gubernatorial candidates and elected cabinet members like the Attorney General, the CFO, the Commissioner of Agriculture, et cetera. To qualify for public campaign financing, a candidate must not be unopposed, agree to the expenditure limits raised or limits that we have in state law, and then raise at least $150,000 if for gubernatorial candidates, or $100,000 for those cabinet positions. Limit your loans or contributions from the candidate's personal funds to $25,000, and limit contributions from political parties to $250,000, and report campaign financing data to the Division of Elections and submit it to a post-election financial audit. So all of that, is that public campaign financing is funded via the General Revenue Fund. And in 2022, the expenditure limit for gubernatorial candidates receiving public campaign financing was $30.29 million. And that's about $2 for every registered voter in the state. While the limit for cabinet candidates was $15.14 million, that's about $1 per registered voter. So public funding of campaigns allows for a broader pool of candidates and works as a bulwark against just one party rule. So that's it in a nutshell. I hope that provides some information.
So those are the 6 amendments that are on the ballot that we thought you might just want to hear them spoken out and some of the details behind them, so that you could, be more thoughtful the time that you get there to cast your ballot. There are 2 local referendums though to be discussed, and we thought, we'll throw both of those out to the Big Picture Manatee team. The first one, guys, let's talk about is the optional school board millage renewal. And, this one probably most people are familiar with it. But just as a reminder, the first local referendum is a request by the school district. It's to continue funding for student achievement through the renewal of an optional additional 1 ad valorem millage point from July 1 of 2025. So next year, July 1, 2025 to June 30th of 2029. And the funds can be used for school safety, security, recruiting and retaining teachers and staff, additional instruction time and support, early literacy programs, career and technical education, STEM, visual and performing arts, athletics, public charter schools, and an independent citizen committee will oversee the spending to ensure proper use of funds. I don't know about you guys, but when you go through that whole entire list of things that the money can be used for, I think it's hard to kind of narrow that down to specific. So I think for me, that's what I'd be looking for, is really at, some public disclosure of what the specific things that are going to be targeted out of that long list of potential uses. Any comments from you guys on that one?
Yeah. Hey, Sherry, do you know if the school board released what they plan to spend the money on for the next 4 years? I have not seen that, if they have.
I honestly haven't seen it. I don't know that I actually looked for it. So my apologies to our crowd here watching, but I think that's definitely what's important. I know that the new superintendent, Jason Wysong, has been trying to do a really good job of, shoring all that up. And, there's no doubt that we've had an influx in all of our schools from, additional students.
Yeah, so I look at it a little bit different, and if I was to take each area where the funds could be used at, and let's say those are allocations, and as far as the priority needs, school safety, based on some of the things that have taken place across our country, we would rather make sure we have funds so we can be proactive and reactive. Just looking at me being a former teacher, former staff, and understanding how non-competitive Manatee County is when it comes to salaries, and this could give an opportunity to make sure we retain teachers and staff. Obviously, I think it's something that we need. Now, I did see a highlight in there when I seen athletics. I'm not necessarily sure how that category would go as far as the allocations, but I do think that's an opportunity to use a carrot to make sure kids, character is developing the right way, their academics are going the right way, their discipline, things like that. So obviously, it would be very interesting to see how it's broke down by the dollar, but just looking at the line items, I think it's something that where we are in our community at this time and some of the issues that are facing, especially with the grade level reading campaigns, and things that are needed, to close those, early literacy gaps that we know that we have out there. I think it's very important for us to look at this from a focused lens so we can give our youth the best opportunity to be successful because they are our future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. So security, early learning, really important, especially for those longer term outcomes and for safety. So I hear you. If that's some of the stuff that's really going to happen, I think a lot of folks will be supportive of that. So this one will be interesting, but certainly we care about all of our students. So there's another local referendum. It's the tourist development tax referendum. And just to let everybody know what that is, it's the county is asking to levy and collect an additional 1% tourist development tax from all short-term rentals of all lodging or accommodations to provide additional revenue to fund the improvements and operations of things like the convention center, other sports complexes in the county, aquariums, although I don't know besides Moat Marine, which is not necessarily in Manatee County, but we've definitely funded some of that in the past. Our beaches to help promote tourism and a variety of other things. But obviously this is geared towards these high impact tourism counties all along the coastline. The state helps define what those are and allows you to have that little bit of extra. What I'm going to also say is that the counties mentioned that the increase won't impact Manatee County taxpayers because it's almost exclusively paid by tourists unless you go out to the islands and you rent or you stay in a hotel or you have family staying in a hotel. You'll see that extra cost. However, we also see that it's related to tourism, and is that as that has expanded, one thing I would point out to all of the viewers on these types of things, especially the two locals referendums, is that it's also based on the tax base. So if the tax base goes up, you've got more money. If the tax base goes down, you have less money. And I'd be cautious for all of the citizens always to assume that everything they see mentioned to be funded will actually happen, because over the course of 5 or 10 years, these things do fluctuate. So that is the second one. And you, Misty, Reggie, any thoughts about the tourist development tax referendum?
You want to go first, Reg?
I'm just listening to Sherry's comments, and it's always educational to hear her speak and make sure that the bottom line is proceed with caution. Everything you read may not necessarily go in the direction that you want it to go. And I caught that message, and that's the reality of the world that we live in, unfortunately. And the military taught me to hope for the best but plan for the worst, and that's just how life is. Those are my comments on that one.
You know, and I'm always in favor of having the visitors to our community pay a larger share of the taxes that we need to maintain a lot of the things that they're here to see and use. But as Sherry has taught me over the years, is that, you know, when you don't have a solid base of what that dollar amount is, and you're dependent on the market conditions and fluctuations, it makes budgeting very difficult at the local government level. So just like you said, Sherry, those were good comments.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I think, you know, it's hard to argue with the local school referendum and for the tourist development, because as you're mentioning, you know, it's pretty targeted on who's paying for it and who it's benefiting. And so I think we're all kind of still in a haze about what's going to transpire, especially with our beautiful beaches and the island communities that were devastated by both, well, I'm going to say 3 devastations: Debbie, Helene, and Milton, the hurricanes here this season. You know, you have to think back to find a year that where we had multiple impacts like that. But we know everybody's working hard, and that, you know, some things will definitely be different, and we'll have to wait and find out. But with that, we wanted to provide all of our listeners with just a rundown, especially of the amendments and the referendums, because we know you get in there in that little booth and you open that ballot up and you got to read and reread and read and reread. So please feel comfortable taking as much time as you need, making sure that you've done your homework before you get there if you can. And if not, you know, think about what you heard here today, where we're trying just to explain what the impacts are. And before we close, any other updates for voting from the Big Picture Manatee folks here?
Hey, don't forget to vote. Get out there and do it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. November the 5th. That's one opportunity that I have to spend the early mornings with my son. So we go and vote together, and I'm excited about that. Make sure we get out to vote.
That is great. And you make a good point, Reggie, that we all either have family near us and locally, or we have them afar. And I think all three of our families, we say to them, make sure you vote. We don't tell them how to vote, but we make sure to say, please exercise your right to vote. We want all of you to do that. And we will certainly be back after the November 5th election with results and a little bit more commentary. So for now, thank you so much for watching. And don't forget, you can watch us on YouTube at the Big Picture Manatee. And also, when you do like our episode, share it with friends, subscribe, make sure you stay tuned. We're very excited about what we've been able to do in these past 2 years. So thanks to everybody. Please vote on November 5th. Bye.
Bye.